engineers just abandon Intel to make their own CPUs. AMD's slashing prices for their Ryzen 9000 parts, the first RX 8000 GPU, and Nvidia's RTX 5000 series is set to be a huge win. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. For those who may not have heard, Intel has been having some serious issues. I'm talking they laid off thousands of employees, had a horrible last quarter. It has not been good for the company. Well, they now have even more bad news because according to this, as you can see, senior Intel CPU architect Splinter to develop their own processors. Right down here it says, while Intel is busy laying off thousands of employees, which by the way, this happened before that. I'm not sure if maybe they heard about it and then decided to do this, or if this was the plan either way. Regardless, it's happening where some of its most experienced CPU architects with a combined 80 plus years at the firm have left to form a RISC-V startup. Now, for those who may not know, RISC-V is basically an ISA with similar goals to ARM, but the difference is that RISC-V is open source. Well, the ISA is, that is. If you make something with it, that doesn't have to be open source or anything like that, but RISC-V itself is in fact open source. As you can see right here, it said Ahead Computing was co-founded by Debbie Marr. Mark, some of these people I will say I would have a tough time pronouncing, so I don't want to butcher their names, but you can see them right here, and it says, with the goal of creating compelling open specification core IP. What's wild is that these aren't just random employees or anything like that. These are major engineers within Intel. As you can see right down here, the co-founder, CEO, and president, Dr. Debbie Marr, was an Intel fellow and chief architect of the Advanced Architecture Development Group at Intel and spent 33 years at the chipmaker on products spanning the i386 all the way up to present day, a highlight being that they actually brought Intel's hyper-threading technology from concept to finished product. Then you have this person right here, an Intel principal engineer and CPU architect in the Advanced Architecture Development Group. During his 16 years at Intel, he worked on architecture development for Intel CPU products, including Haswell, Broadwell, Goldmont Plus, Tremont, and Skymont. These are major architects and engineers. Basically, this is terrible news for Intel, but pretty great news for just about everyone else, just because, once again, especially in this industry, more competition is great. And next up for today, if you've been following the channel, you know that AMD's Ryzen 9000 series has been a pretty big disappointment. Oh, and if you aren't following the channel, what are you doing? If you love PC hardware and love to keep up with all the latest PC hardware news, make sure you subscribe to Gamer Meld. Either way, like I said, Ryzen 9000 has really not been all that well received, and I would argue it is justified just because the CPUs really aren't anywhere near as great as what AMD originally said. Regardless, the good news here, this is the beauty of the market, competition, things like that, AMD has already started lowering prices. I recently went over a story that talked about the fact that, I believe it was over in Germany, a few other places in Europe, they had already begun lowering prices of Ryzen 9000. Well, it's now made its way to the US. As you can see right here, we have the Ryzen 9 9950X. Originally, it was priced at $649, and of course, this is a major retailer, so this could actually be a permanent price change, or at least something that others will likely follow suit. Either way, like I was saying, the 9950X, which was $649, is now down 4% to $623.30. Obviously, not a huge change, but of course, every little bit counts. And in fact, the 9900X dropped even more. We're talking a 10% drop, $50 down from $499 to $449. So if you're interested in those, I will have affiliate links down below. And next up, we just got our first benchmarks on AMD's next-gen RX 8000 GPUs. As you can see right here, these benchmarks come from Geekbench, and as they state, so the product right here, you can see the device name is GFX 1201, and according to video cards, it's listed as 1201, which aligns with the architecture identifier for RDNA 4, meaning these benchmarks that we've seen are specifically for, once again, RDNA 4, i.e. their RX 8000 GPUs. Now, when it comes to specs, as you can see right here, the compute units are listed as 28, but as they say here, in this case, it refers to workgroup processors, and that number then should be doubled because there's 2 CUs in each workgroup processor. I know that RDNA can be a little bit confusing, the architecture itself that makes up the GPU, but bear with me here. That ultimately leads it to being a 56 CU GPU, i.e. 3,584 GPU cores. When it comes to clock speed, as you can see, it's 2,101 megahertz, which is of course very low compared to what we would expect given current gen, things like that. But as you'll see with these performance numbers, these are clearly very early samples, maybe engineering samples, maybe a little bit after that. But basically, I wouldn't really take much meaning from these benchmark scores. As you can see right here, this is Geekbench 6, OpenCL, and of course it got destroyed by not only the current gen 7900 XTX, but even the 7800 XT. Like I said, don't really look into this, but I'll also say that it also comes with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, unfortunately, that's all they give us. They don't tell us if this is GDDR6X, GDDR7, or anything like that. We do assume, based on leaks, that it is in fact GDDR6, but like I said, right here, it doesn't actually tell us. Still, what this does tell us is that now that we're starting to actually see real leaks by real devices from AMD, clearly AMD is getting much closer to their RX 8000 release, and of course with that we'll see even more leaks. Even a better reason to stick with GamerMeld and make sure you subscribe. And lastly for today, we just got a huge leak that gives us an idea of performance as well as specs for NVIDIA's next-gen RTX 5000 GPUs. Now, you'll quickly notice that this is of course regarding specifically an RTX 5060 and it's a laptop GPU, but as you'll see in a second, it tells us quite a bit for NVIDIA's next-gen desktop GPUs as well. As you can see, this one comes from Golden Pig Upgrade Pack. Once again, leakers name aside, this is actually a leaker that we've seen be very accurate in the past, and here they are giving us some really good stuff that actually does seem to be confirmed by an actual Chinese laptop and PC manufacturer. As you can see right here, it says the chairman of this company says that the next generation of notebook cards from NVIDIA will use GDDR7 video memory. And that right there obviously tells us that if the mobile cards are using GDDR7, the desktop cards obviously will as well. And not only that, but apparently the power consumption of the 60 level cards will be greatly reduced from 140 watts to 115 watts, while at the exact same time, you'll see right down here that apparently it's not only going to be lowering watts by quite a bit, but it's said to offer performance similar to currently an RTX 4070 laptop GPU. Basically, Blackwell is set to not only come with GDDR7, but it's looking like these GPUs, possibly not the highest in one, they typically like to push that as absolutely far as they can. And of course, if this is the case, that means they may really push this year's just because they're apparently able to, if this is correct, bring the 4060 up to 4070's performance while still lowering power draw. Basically, NVIDIA's next-gen RTX 5000 GPUs are looking very, very nice. So while that does it for today, are you pumped for NVIDIA's next-gen RTX 5000 cards, or are you just hoping to see a price reduction in their current-gen 4000 cards? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, have a great day.